we can.
Well, happy 100th day of the shit show, and welcome to Over It. I'm JoJo from Jers, who just had a clear throat. Sorry about that. Welcome to my beautiful co-panelists. You've got Julie Roginski, author of the Salty Politics on Substack, co-founders of the Seneca Project, creative genius Michelle Kinney, and author of Uncompromised on Substack, and also co-founder of the Seneca Project, which is, if you're not following and subscribed and joined up and signed up, please do, because you're killing it, and we need you guys more than ever. Tara Setmayer. Hi, Julie, Michelle. Tara, how are you? Everybody.
You guys, I mean, it's only been 100 days. Makes me think, I'm not very good at math, but however many days there are left in this administration, it is significantly more than that. And I am tired. I'm energized because we got to fight this shit, but I am tired.
Yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot, but we're here and we're on the front lines, and we are happy to be in this fight with all of you guys. And that's why we do what we do. So that's why we're here. But we were also over a lot of shit too. So that's why we started this show, because we're not the only ones that are over it.
Yeah, in fact, you know what? If you're in the comments today, because it's been 100 days, let us know which of this shit show of the last 100 days you are most over. I know it's a really hard thing to narrow down because a lot's happened. But if there's one thing you could think of that has completely bugged you more than anything else about the last 100 days, drop it in the chat and we will talk about it.
We should do a 100-day bracket, most awful things bracket, like you know.
Oh, like March Madness.
Yeah. For me, honestly, I don't know at this freaking point, but it's either the kidnapping of people and without due process, or it's the January 6th pardons. The January 6th pardons might, I mean, I don't know, that one just at a different fucking level set me off, like in a way I can't explain. For me, that would probably take the top spot. It's hard to say. There's so much awfulness.
Yep, that is so true. And it just hits different because it goes against like so much of the basic decency and fundamental rights of what everybody stands for, is that somehow the moment that we're in, January 6th violent insurrectionists are patriots, and we're the heretics. Like I just don't get it. It's
up is down, black is white.
Yeah, precursor to everything else. If they can be patriots, then due process doesn't matter. The Constitution doesn't matter. You know, Donald Trump letting Elon Musk run through our private information doesn't matter. Doge firing people illegally doesn't matter. Disappearing people doesn't matter. Deporting 2-year-olds doesn't matter. Like all of that, it's a cascading effect, and it started there.
Oh, 1,000%. That's such a great way to articulate this, Tara. I mean, really, it's a slide. It's a slippery slope that has been very precipitous.
Yes.
And what it's leading towards is something that we've seen throughout history, and the worst atrocities even conceivable. But we're speaking out and standing up and being loud, and we are not, hiding in the shadows for fear of retribution, which a lot of people are, frankly.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this, and I realized this whole administration could be summed up in the phrase "owning the libs," right?
Mm-hmm.
When Donald Trump said 2 years ago, I think it was March or February of 2023, when he said that crazy speech, and he said, "I'm your justice, I'm your whatever, and for those of you who are wronged, I am your retribution." Ugh. This whole exercise is about getting back at the American people for throwing him out of office in 2020. He knows he lost. Like, by the way, all this nonsense, privately, people in his orbit have conceded. He's admitted that he knows he lost in 2020. And that's the worst part. It's not that he's gaslighting people into believing that he won. It's the fact that he lost. He knows he lost. And now he's taking it out on the American people. Mm-hmm. He's punishing them.
Yeah. His retribution is against the country that didn't vote for him.
Yep. Yeah. And that's all the last 100 days have been. And that's all the next 3 years and whatever other 4 years minus the next 100 days will be, which is him taking it out on all of us. And
his voters. And his voters.
Yes. Well, it's so funny that you say this, because I wrote a Substack about this yesterday, but you have, I'm going to use the ILA, right? The International Longshoremen's Association is a great example. The they did not endorse in this past election. These are union guys, but they did not endorse. Neither did the Teamsters. And in January, the president of the ILA, Harold Daggett of New Jersey, your home state, JoJo, and mine, and Tara's, put out a fawning statement saying that there's not going to be a better president for the working men and women of this country. Trump. He is the best, and he's going to bring back everything. And the working men and women have never had a champion like Donald Trump. Yesterday, the same union put out a statement saying, this doesn't make America great. This is punishing the working men and women of America. You guys voted for him.
Right.
Same with the Teamsters, right? Like the Teamsters, if you recall, did not endorse Kamala Harris. 60% or even more than that of their union membership wanted to support Trump, so they supported nobody. Now they're all bent out of shape because the truckers who are going to be doing long haul trucking from the ports to take goods that are no longer coming from China are going to lose their jobs. And the president of the executive director of the Port of Los Angeles said something along the lines of, I don't know how these people are going to put food on the table.
Yep.
Trump last night on his ABC interview said this is what they voted for. When asked, what do you say when your voters say this is not what I voted for? He says it is. And you know what? It is.
It is. It
He
is.
thinks they're all stupid. That's why he was like, yeah, you all voted for this. You put me back in power. Now I can do whatever I want. And you thought you were owning the libs, right?
Right.
All about owning the libs. Yeah. He leaned into that nonsense that drew people into like, yeah, he's our champion, blah, 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 where he actually despises his supporters. He despises them. I've told this story before about how Kellyanne Conway's kid, Claudia Conway, would witness Donald Trump call his own supporters chumps when she was 10 years old back in 2015. And he was at an event where people, before he announced he was running for president, he was at an event down in South Carolina or somewhere like the Faith and Freedom Conference or one of those like precursor events to when you we're going to run for president. You go to these conferences in the Republican side. And she was there with her mother and in the truck with Donald Trump because Kellyanne was friends with Trump back then. And he said, look at these chumps. Look at these chumps supporting me. He thinks MAGA, he thinks you're a chump.
You know how he
doing?
You know how he loves to recite or read the snake? You knew I was that is exactly what he is to them. You knew I was a snake, but you let me in. He is doing, it's leopards eating people's faces party shit. He is doing exactly what he said he would do, but you didn't think it would happen to you. You thought you had that all access club card.
Why not, right? Because the thing about Donald Trump is he's nothing, there's no subtlety to him. Like he told you what he was going to do. These tariffs that you're now shocked that he put into place that are impacting your trucking jobs and your port jobs, and the fact that you're going to be paying more, like this is the one thing he's been consistent about his whole life.
And I'm like, you're a rich asshole from Queens who rides around in a 1985 limousine looking thing. Who rides a limo anymore? I'm sorry, but that's like so 80s. He's so cheesy and weird. And also, like, again, the four of us being from either New York or New Jersey, we know the stories of how he has screwed over every contractor, every union worker. He doesn't pay people. He just takes and takes and takes. And then if you try to hold him accountable, he just sues you back and buries you in bankruptcy. This is who this guy is. It's always who he's been. Like, I'm sorry if you weren't listening. And I was talking to my husband about this last night. I was like, I at this point, I understand I'm not supposed to call MAGA people, oh, we told you so. We told you so. But like, you know what? They're out here. They call all of us morons and idiots. And they, they were like, oh, I don't know. Like the way they made fun of, he made fun of disabled people, or he called, the MAGA people and the Republicans are some of the cruelest people in the history of American politics. And I'm not allowed to say, I told you so. Like, I'm sorry, but I told you so. And a lot of you are getting exactly what you asked for.
Yeah, I hope you get the election you're the president you voted for, right?
Yeah. Have the day you deserve.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, though, we all have to pay the price for it.
I know.
That's the part that sucks. You know what I mean? It's like we all are going through this collective nightmare because these people were more worried about owning the libs than actually making sure our constitutional republic survived.
Right. Or that our economy doesn't tank.
Correct.
Yeah. And let me just say like where this is all going, because all of their little jokes are not jokes and all of their little admissions are
No.
I mean, look, I'm just going to call it out. Tara and I are both on CNN a lot. We're both on with Scott Jennings a lot. Scott Jennings, who in the most, I can only describe thirsty move I've ever seen in my life yesterday.
Oh, thirsty.
Thirsty is the word, because he's obviously been begging to be adjacent to President Trump for God knows how long. This is the same Scott Jennings, if you recall, just to give you some background, who after January 6th sat with his then friend Mitch McConnell over Chick-fil-A in Louisville, Kentucky, where Mitch McConnell said the Democrats are going to take care of that son of a bitch for us. And Scott went on CNN and said, I'm done with Trump. Apparently not. He begged and begged. He really wanted to be the White House press secretary. He doesn't have, big boobs or blonde hair, so that's not going to happen. But he finally got to be on stage yesterday with Trump, and Trump clearly told him, you have 30 seconds. And I know Scott well enough to know, and so do you, Tara, that he obviously sat there for as long as Trump.
Oh, yeah.
I said, what can I say? What can I say?
He was workshopping those jokes with ChatGPT.
Yeah,
So he finally
in the mirror.
Yeah, he finally gets up on stage and he kind of flubs it. But what he says is, I was flying over Michigan. I guess we're supposed to imply that he flew down on Air Force One with Trump.
Yeah.
So important.
Good for you.
Yeah, good for you. And I was looking down at all the farmland, and I said to myself, and I'm paraphrasing here, but not really, I should really buy a farm here. Translation, I made a lot of money on CNN, so I could now buy a farm here. And so I could put all the libs that I owned there. I own so many libs that I needed a place to put them. Well, first of all, as a lib who has been on with him a million times, sorry, Scott, you've never owned me. In fact, I think I probably owned you once or twice. But what's relevant about this is it's not a joke. Like, I can only, if I went on CNN on a panel with Scott Jennings during the Biden administration and said, you know what, I better go buy some farmland in Pennsylvania because I need a place to put all the crazy MAGA people that I own every day. You're setting up a concentration camp.
That's right. That's exactly right. And they get away with making those comments about us, all of us who are calling out their bullshit. And those of us, I'm not a liberal, and they try to call me one.
Oh,
and I turn right back around and say 27 years in the Republican Party and I'm a liberal. No, I'm someone that knows that you're a hypocrite.
Yeah.
I mean, like, stop. You can call me anything you want. I see you and I know the truth. I was where you were, except I chose not to compromise myself and to sell out for money and not to sell out for access to this asshole and to be adjacent to the destruction of our country. You can choose that. You have to live with it. You have to look at yourself in the mirror, but I can sleep well at night knowing that I didn't do what you did or become what you became. That's why they hate me so much and try to, think that they're insulting me by calling me a liberal or a progressive. Well, if fighting for democracy makes me a liberal, then sign me up. Like, it's ridiculous. Yeah, I'm a liberal. I'm pro-liberal democracy. Or not.
Yep.
So Scott Jennings, and by the way, CNN defended Scott Jennings and that shit.
Sickening.
They did? I didn't see that.
Oh,
and they wonder why cable news is dying, because they have no spine, they have no backbone, and no moral compass whatsoever.
Yep. I sent Julie the statement. I can read it real quick what they said, because it's important that he's their golden goose, and he's their little shiny object to keep Trump from coming for them for now. So as we all know. Their statement right here said, okay, here it is. Oliver Darcy again with the scoop. CNN is defending Scott Jennings after he appeared on stage with Donald Trump at the 100 Days rally. Quote, CNN's political commentators are not full-time employees or journalists for the network, and therefore may participate in political activities, including fundraising, public speaking, and advocacy work.
Advocacy work, like implying you're going to put libs in a concentration.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry. He wants to jump up on stage with Trump. God bless. I mean, I was a contributor at Fox for a long time. I did political work the entire time I was there. Nobody stopped me. I don't have a problem with that. That's okay. Yep. But the substance of what he said matters. And by the way, I would have no problem with Scott appearing at a rally with Trump. Go ahead and do it.
Right. It's your right.
You're right. It's what he said.
Yep.
What he said. First of all, I want a list of who he thinks he owns. Right?
I don't think he could own Paul Manafort's ostrich coat. Sorry. Because
what he does is he goes on air, he clips these little clips up to the part that he wants them clipped, but it's like, it's basically like saying Germany won World War II except for the part that happened, after 1943. Like, he'll clip it
right
before like people start pushing back. He'll send it to his little MAGA friends on Twitter. They all go crazy saying he owns the libs.
Yeah.
And then he kind of starts buying into it, but he knows the joke. He knows it's not the whole thing.
That's right.
And And that's okay. You know, you want to go ahead and do that. That's fine. It guys made him a lot of money on CNN. It's the part where he is implying that he is putting people like me, I guess, and you, Tara, because we're on, in a concentration camp in Michigan. Well, Michigan's a lovely state. I don't really want to spend any time in a concentration camp or any other camp there.
And I'll be damned if anybody's going to say they're going to own me in any capacity. Did they already erase his brain about the history of this country owning people?
Yeah.
Literally as property?
Right.
Yeah.
And if you said that, and if you said that on that panel, he'd be like, well, you know,
Oh, you can't take a joke.
You can't take a joke, or like, you know, that was a long time ago and I'm not responsible for that. Like there's always some sort of spin with this guy. He's another one. I'm like, how do you live with yourself? Because here's the thing, whatever he is in his day-to-day life, I don't know the man. I've never met him, but the way that he will always be remembered for the rest of time on this earth, everybody else, he will be remembered for the person that he presents on CNN. And that is a bad person. And that is a person who is on the wrong side of history, who sides with fascists. And that is the legacy that he is leaving, not only for himself, but his children and his family for generations to come.
Yeah, and that's what Trump does, though, right? Like, I mean, no love for James Comey, but James Comey described him as like eating your soul in little bites, right? Until he consumes you whole. And I think Scott Jennings is the perfect example of that. He's a cautionary tale, but he's also a prime example, because he, little by little, has sort of yielded to all of this to the point where he's now on stage thinking, what is the most incendiary, insane, and thing I can possibly say that'll offend the most people, the bang for buck, to impress this fucking moron fascist, so that he wants to bring me back on stage next time for maybe a minute that time. Like, this is he's gone. He's completely gone over the shark, done, gone. And that you see so many of the people that Trump has surrounded himself with now that are like that. I mean, you could, from everybody from Nolan to Witkoff to Marco friggin' Rubio.
Except the part that kills me. This is the part that just like eats away at me. Is eventually Trump will be gone. Like, I truly believe this. As Tara, you said this, right? You're not a liberal. You're a Republican for almost 30 years.
Yeah.
But we all understand the rational parts. Actually, they understand this too. There is team democracy and there's team autocracy. You're on one or the other. Like, we're not debating marginal tax rates anymore. We're not debating.
We talked about that earlier today.
I know. I say that all the time. That's the example I use, is marginal tax rates. I say it all the time. Or healthcare.
Or healthcare. We're not debating that anymore. We're truly debating whether we have the freedom to go on shows like this and talk about it, or whether we're going to be spending some time, courtesy of Scott Jennings, in some camp in Michigan, right? Like, one or two choices.
Let that motherfucker
But
try.
what pisses me off is that eventually when Trump leaves, because I truly, truly believe that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. I use that Martin Luther King phrase all the time because I believe wholeheartedly. These people are going to pretend they had nothing to do with it.
Oh, yeah.
CNN will be like, no, because remember, Scott was pro-Trump. Then when Trump was on the outs, he was anti-Trump. Now Trump is back on the ends. He's pro-Trump. And when Trump is gone, he'll be anti-Trump again. And he'll latch himself onto whoever the next barnacle that he And so, like, where's the accountability for these people? Because I want to get, like, I'm at the point now with Trump where he's like, I'm your retribution. Like, I want justice for all of us who stood strong, while these people are going to try to reinvent themselves again. The Democrat in the White House, or an anti-MAGA Republican, if that ever happened again.
Well, I mean, just look at JD Vance, right? Who is our vice president now, who how many years ago was saying, I'm a never Trump guy. In fact, on TikTok over the summer, they made it into like a bop, and it was like trending. It was a trending sound. I'm a never Trump guy. And because he said it, and he tweeted, or no, he not tweeted. He did tweet something. And then there was a text with a friend, and there was like all this history of him thinking like he could be Hitler, and he was writing this stuff to friends, and then backlash, or the whiplash with this guy, and being recruited by Opus Dei or whatever made him come to this.
Peter Thiel wrote a check, or whatever.
Peter Thiel wrote a check for $15 million to elect him to the United States Senate, and he said, "Oh, never Trump. How about always Trump? I'm going to be your vice president." And then he is. And now he's doing all his bidding, and he's wearing his little red tie costume, sitting on the couch, yelling at, President Zelensky and whatever else. I mean,
with his guy liner.
It looks like a blind girl was using a Sharpie in the middle of an earthquake, by the way. As an aside.
I've said it again, JD, get some Victoria Beckham. Eyeliner. Best
you don't know what you're missing.
The world, and it'll go on much smoother than that black Maybelline shit you're putting in your eyes.
They're all weathercocks. They're all weathercocks. And
like Lindsey Graham,
Yep.
remember during the first Trump, he was like, we're going to be punished. We're going to have to pay for this. And he's like going on and on about how, Donald Trump is the worst person ever. He tweeted yesterday that he wanted Donald Trump to be elected to be the next pope. And if you think that he was kidding, I can tell you right now, Lindsey Graham did not take a workshop at the Upright Citizens Brigade. He is not a comedian. He's not funny. These are serious. These are people who are being serious and cute about their tomfoolery and barnacling. To Tara's point, he is a barnacle on Donald Trump's big sweaty ass.
I say it all the time.
You just described one of his shower fantasies, Michelle.
I mean, Lindsey Graham lives with his mother. I'm just gonna remind everyone of that.
Listen, Lady Lindsay is called that for a reason, and I hope he and JD Vance find themselves one day and live freely. Which I think leads to talking about people selling out and being frustrated with that. Michelle, I think this is your over it today. Yes, the governor of Michigan.
There were so many things. There were so many things to be over, and there are, and I am. But Gretchen Whitmer really takes the cake. So I'm going to start with actually, do we have the graphic that I sent where she was at the White House a couple weeks ago in the Oval Office? I don't know if we can show that first. Oh, yeah. Okay. So it's her here in the middle. Okay. Gretchen Whitmer hid from the Oval Office cameras. Now she's joining Trump as he marks 100 days. Now, if anybody doesn't know this, so she was at the Oval Office, apparently was supposed to have a private meeting with Donald Trump. And of course, he was having one of his little like executive order paloozas. And they push her out into the Oval Office and she's having to stand there. And she's kind of like looking down and she's embarrassed. Here's my thing. You have agency. You are a governor of a major state. Walk out of the room.
Exactly.
It's not hard. You just leave.
The door's right there.
The door was right there next to her. She could have left.
Just say, no, I'm sorry, but I'm not a part of this. Thank you, Mr. President. And that's the end.
So instead of like just walking out, here she is standing by the Saddam Hussein's mantle and she's covering her face to not be photographed. Okay, so this was a terrible thing. And, her staff or whatever, they made a statement saying that, how unhappy she was and blah, 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 blah. And then Donald Trump went to Michigan. Was this yesterday, right? Was it yesterday? Yep. I have no sense of time.
Yesterday, yeah.
No accident that he chose Michigan to be his first location for one of his little Nazi rallies.
Mm-hmm. So she tweets out, I'll work with anyone who's serious about getting things done, but I'll never compromise on what I believe. In Michigan, we know how to get things done, and that means working together. So then Fox News has a headline that says Blue State Governor makes another appearance with Donald Trump before his 100-day speech. Happy we're here. So I would love to play the video of her greeting him as he gets off the plane. We can play that.
Oh my God.
It's a frisky hug.
Yep.
I want to puke. Like
hugging.
Julie, why have they need you desperately on their consultant list to tell her, are you out of your fucking mind? Like when this was being discussed, nobody in her circle said to her, you do understand that you will be used as a propaganda prop.
Yep.
In any capacity. You will have no agency over how you look, how they spin it. You will be used as a propaganda prop. So are you sure you want to do this?
Well, let me tell you.
Yeah, and when you answer that, and once he starts doing this with you, he's not going to stop, right? So, Julie, please, I just want this one time.
As somebody who has worked for several governors, I can tell you what's going on. First of all, she's surrounded by, I am sure, a bunch of local Michigan consultants. When you're the governor and you're a local state consultant working for the governor and being in the governor's good graces is like hitting the jackpot because you make a ton of money, much more than you make working for senators because the governor controls everything and in that state. And therefore, They, I'm sure, have put all of their eggs in the Gretchen Whitmer basket. And Gretchen Whitmer, in turn, has put all of her eggs, because she's had to over the last 8 years, into the bipartisanship basket, because that's the only way that she could win in Michigan, right?
Right.
Not understanding that, as I said before, compromise is the new C word to me when it comes to Republicans. And the reason for that is not because I don't understand its utility. She did, in fact, get something out of it. She went to the Oval Office when she was hiding behind those binders. The reason she didn't walk out is because she was petitioning him and begging him to send a new fleet of fighter jets to, I think it's called Selfridge Air Force Base, Michigan, which is incredibly important for that local economy in that part of Michigan. I understand as a governor what she needs to do. I also understand that the reason she had to hug him when he hugged her, if you see, she kind of stuck out her hand. She should have known he was going to go in for the hug, because that's what Donald Trump does. He humiliates you and sucks your soul. Yeah. But nevertheless, I'm sure. And then they went to that Selfridge Air Force Base and did a press conference together.
We have a clip of this. Can we play this? He calls her on stage.
I didn't plan to speak, but
Look at her
on
butt,
behalf
too.
of all the military men and women who serve our country and serve so honorably on behalf of the state of Michigan, I am really damn happy we're here to celebrate this recapitalization at Selfridge. It's crucial for the Michigan economy. It's crucial for the men and women here, for our homeland security and our future. So thank you. I'm so grateful that this announcement was made today, and I appreciate all the work. Thank you.
Like, as it's happening, she knows, she's like, this.
No, but let me tell you what awaits Gretchen Whitmer. And this is why I understand as a governor what she's doing. She's trying to obviously get stuff done for her state.
Yeah, I mean, I get that part too.
Let me just tell you what's going to happen to Gretchen Whitmer, because we have a great example of that with what happened with the governor of New Jersey. So your home state governor, JoJo, Phil Murphy of New Jersey, my former client. I'm not a huge fan, but I will tell you without bias exactly what happened with him and Donald Trump. When Trump was first president, if you remember, after George Floyd, all the stuff was happening in Washington, Trump asked governors across the country to send the National Guard in to quell these protests. Every Democratic governor said no but one. Phil Murphy decided that he was going to do what Donald Trump wanted, and he was going to send, I think it was 500 or some large number of New Jersey National Guard troops down to Washington. He said to protect the monuments. The way it was perceived is that he was going to send the National Guard down to act as thugs to put down Black people protesting over George, not just Black people, anybody in their right mind protesting over George Floyd, right? That was what. Then Trump loses, and Murphy decides he's going to become best friends with Jared and Ivanka just as Trump comes back. He goes out to dinner with Jared and Ivanka. They become good friends. He gives Jared a huge tax break on some sort of real estate deal that Jared wants. They go out to dinner that night. There's pictures of them all over some restaurant in Red Bank, New Jersey, with Jared, Ivanka, and George Helmy, and Tammy Mert. Like, everybody's there. And sucks up to Jared and Ivanka. But that's not enough. Then Trump has the assassination attempt in Butler. And this is a direct quote from Murphy. Tammy Murphy is his wife. He says to a reporter, I turned to Tammy and I said, well wishes are not good enough. We got to go down to Bedminster, give him a big hug. Yeah. So he runs down to Bedminster and apparently hugs Donald Trump, and then tells everybody that he and Melania and his wife and Trump are now friends, and they socialize. And I'm going to stand up to him where we disagree, but it doesn't mean that we can't work together on things, like as though he's dealing with George Bush here, right? As though he's a normal Republican. And so nobody has sucked up to him more, with the possible exception of Gretchen Whitmer, than Phil Murphy. What happens? 2 weeks ago, Alina Habba, who is now the United States Attorney for the District of New Jersey. Why? Because she used to run a parking lot, some sort of lawyer for parking lots in New Jersey. So I guess now that qualifies her to run the Justice Department in New Jersey. Goes on Sean Hannity, as one does when they work for the Justice Department, and announces that she is launching an investigation into Phil Murphy for his apparent abuse of immigration. That's what awaits Gretchen Whitmer.
Yes. Yes.
He sucks the soul out of you. He humiliates you. He makes you abase yourself until you destroy your own career in your own party. And then he, like a snake, he comes after you, just rips your heart out.
Hello,
Yeah.
Christie too. Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
But so sorry, just last thing. Like, by the way, what is it telling the world that is watching right now? You have a choice, right? You can be JB Pritzker, or you can be Gretchen Whitmer,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
And I know that they're not the same. And I would bet money that Trump wouldn't try to pull JB Pritzker in for a hug. But nonetheless,
Yeah.
it does tell. I mean, I looked at every freaking comment up and down in my replies. Like, oh, look, she's come along, Joe. It's you'll be next. You'll have to all come along. See, she's smart. And it's like, this is what it's telling the rest of the world, is that that's what you have to do to get what you want. That's to me,
Terrible
I mean,
message.
it's right, terrible message. As
which
the
is
first
what the
one.
other strong men are doing in order to placate him. I mean, this is, and it's also saying, like, I'm okay with history books having my face next to him, embracing him.
It's
And this
so
is where
bad.
I'm like, these are not normal times. We cannot react to things in normal ways. And when I saw that yesterday, I was like, oh, wow, you're toast. I don't know if she'll be, I hope that she'll be toast. Like, when it comes to a national stage, I really do, because I will never support her now, because I really have come to a point in my personal life as well as my professional life. There is a line in the sand. If you do anything to normalize this man and what he is doing, that is no worse. That is no better than you standing next to Adolf Hitler, in my
Yep.
opinion. And I have no forgiveness. I have no grace for it, because I'm sorry, we are 9 years into this shit. And if you don't know by now, there will never be anything you give to this man, any amount of attention or praise or anything, that will be enough for him. None of it will be enough for him. And to all three of your point is that he will take the moment and he will wait for it in order to stick the knife in and humiliate you. And he will do it to her, just like he's doing it to the country and everyone else who's worked for him or dated him or married him. Even his own children, he will humiliate. So there really is no end in sight for this. And anybody who doesn't realize this at that point, I've got a picture over here. This frame right here. I got a picture of myself with Gretchen Whitmer right there. I met her last year.
Yeah, well,
And-
at the Webbies, we met her.
And I looked at her and I was like, wow, this is the future here. This is the future, because I really came to a point, especially last year when Joe Biden was the candidate, right? I thought to myself, I'm never going to see a woman president in my lifetime. I'm 42 years old. I'm never going to see one. And that's just how things are. But she is somebody who gave me a little bit of hope, especially because, I mean, let's be honest, she's very attractive. She's very smart. She's strategic in how she deals with, working with Republicans in a very purple state. But I said this on my Instagram maybe a month or so ago. And I said, listen, when are Republicans going to realize, like the good ones, or Democrats, or literally anybody, going to realize that there is no more reaching across the aisle?
Mhm.
We are at war
Yep.
with ourselves and with people who want to take away your rights as a human being.
Mhm.
They want to take everything from us. They want to put us in camps. They want to turn us into this feudalistic society. Lutnick was on TV a couple days ago saying, isn't it great? We have to train people to be okay with doing these factory jobs now, and you're going to do it. And then your child's going to work in that factory. And then your grandchild is going to work in that factory. Isn't that great? And this is what they are trying to do, in addition to the fact that they're going to round people up. And when they do, not if they do, suspend the Constitution, and it will happen. Martial law is going to happen. I hope I'm wrong, but I think that probably the four of us here can agree that all signs point to that. They're going to take away your right to buy a gun. To all the gun people in the room, they're going to take your right to speak your mind freely. They're going to take away the right of a free press, your freedom to assemble and protest. All of the things that we hold dear as Americans are going to be gone. So I am sorry, Gretchen Whitmer. I am sorry that this has happened to you and that you did not have the courage to step away and say, F off, because there is going to be a greater price to pay than the economy of a military town in the state of Michigan. The greater issue and the greater price that we are all going to pay is losing our country and losing our rights as Americans.
Yeah. And didn't Pritzker say, like, if you don't fight when you have the chance to fight, the chance will not be here?
We have this clip.
That's exactly right.
Here's the contrast. And this is a speech that is 13 minutes long. I hope to God, you guys, if you haven't seen it already, go take the time, go on YouTube. This is an incredible speech that Governor Pritzker from Illinois gave in the state of New Hampshire, which I think is pointing to something. But I pulled just the ending of this speech, which I think is really important, and it's something I think we should all hear.
Understand the tendency to give in to despair right now, but despair is an indulgence that we cannot afford in the times upon which history turns. Never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption, but I am now. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. They have to understand that we will fight their cruelty with every megaphone and microphone that we have. We must castigate them on the soapbox and then punish them at the ballot box. They must feel in their bones that when we survive this shameful episode of American history with our democracy intact, because we have no alternative but to do just that, that we will relegate their portraits to the museum halls reserved for tyrants and traitors. And when the courage of our civic leaders wavers, when they fail to stand up for our country in its moment of greatest need, then we should remind them that cowardice always comes at a cost.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say that just my last thing, and I'll stop taking up all this time, is like that is the fighter that the American people are asking for, that are being polled by pollsters around the country. What is it that you're looking for? You're looking for a fighter. It's Governor Pritzker, and the way that he is speaking in plain, simple, and visceral terms. I mean, he's speaking from his gut as the descendant of a Ukrainian refugee, or he's a Ukrainian Jewish American who descends from refugees who came to the United States to start a better life. And he's a very wealthy man, and his family is very wealthy now, but they have earned that and worked their way to that kind of wealth in this country, and I respect it. And quite frankly, like that is the fighter that we want, not these, and we can get to this another time, the primary candidates in the state of New Jersey who are making ad after ad about like, oh, I'm going to fight you in a boxing and the thing. No, that is not what people want. People want this. People want to know that they're on your that they're on your side.
They don't want what a pollster or what a focus group thinks a fighter is,
or a Democratic consultant.
Right.
Thank you.
That's not right. They want authenticity. And yes, Pritzker has the benefit of being a billionaire.
Yeah.
Which I think maybe that partially gives him a little bit more runway to be able to speak out, because Donald Trump can't hurt him and his family directly as
a good point.
How he could others. So that emboldens him a little bit more. And that's good, because that, you're right, that's the blueprint. And people need to realize that all of the horrible things that we're heading toward can be stopped if we fight back. Like we are not, it's not a fait accompli at this point. Unless people acquiesce or obey in advance, or act like this is normal and do the normal shit, like what Gretchen Whitmer is doing. She's making a huge miscalculation here, which was so disappointing. I'm a huge Gretchen Whitmer fan too. When we were at the Webbies last year, her and Julia Louis-Dreyfus were the highlight of our experience there, getting to meet and talk to them, because she was such a fighter before, because she was someone that wasn't afraid to tell everybody to go fuck off. Until now, she cannot do it under the guise of, we need bipartisanship in order to get this done in my state. What she should have done, she should have said, Mr. President, if you're supposed to be the commander in chief, so if you want to, if personal retribution and petty political squabbles are more important to making sure our troops and our auto workers and our farmers and our seniors and all of those people are properly taken care of, that's on you. But I'm going to stand for democracy and the people of Michigan. If you want to hold that hostage, then you explain to them and look into the faces of those soldiers, of those seniors, of those auto workers, of those farmers, and you tell them that you decided to be a petty motherfucker instead of doing what you're supposed to do as the president of the United States. I'm going to be here serving the people of Michigan. That's what she should have said.
Amen, Sarah. Amen.
Amen, 100%. And look at the governor of Maine. Look at the governor of Maine. Another woman who is saying the opposite. I'll see you in court. He's going after her, but she is telling people of her state and the rest of the world and Donald fucking Trump, no, no, I'm not going to play by your game.
Well, Sarah Huckabee has been so far up his ass, she can see his colon. I mean, he won't send any federal aid to help her people in Arkansas. And then she asked again, and he still told her to go kick rocks.
She should sell.
What is this? What are people not learning? Listen,
I'll tell you.
Listen.
Well, but this brings me to my over it. Could we possibly play the clip from Dana Bash's interview with our Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer?
He sent him a very strong letter just the other day.
Not a strong letter.
8 very strong questions about why this isn't just a pretext.
You'll let us know if you get a response to that letter.
I mean, Dana Bash is like
a strong letter.
Well, let me put the context.
With strong questions.
We had asked him about the fact that he's literally, and I say this as a Jew, he is literally misusing the Jewish community to go after Harvard's funding for things like cancer research, like Alzheimer's research, for life-saving, literally things that will save America's lives, which underscores to me again, he wants us all dead because we're out of office in 2020. But so Dana Bash asks Chuck Schumer, what, Chuck Schumer, as the highest ranking Jewish American and Harvard graduate, are you going to do to stop this complete weaponization of taxpayer dollars to score Donald Trump, for Donald Trump to basically score, you exploit anti-Semitism to go after universities that teach critical thinking? I'm going to send, I already did it, Dana. I sent a letter, a strongly worded letter, 8 questions. Oh, okay. Do we think that Donald Trump is sitting there with his number 2 pencil in the Oval Office?
Yeah. Listen.
Laboring how to answer each of those questions? Do we think he's playing on the 8th hole of his golf course right now, being like,
right,
this is what we have?
I know.
Right. Unless you sent that letter with a dead bird, like, I'm sorry, there's not, like, no one cares.
Nobody cares about your strongly worded letter. I mean,
this was in a horse's head in your bed.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Like this weakness of it all is so infuriating because we're all going like, dude, this isn't 1985. It's 2025. Strongly worded letters don't mean shit. So like and the fact that he actually thinks that going on CNN, like he was very proud of himself.
Oh, very impressed.
Because he re-emphasized it with 8 strongly worded questions.
Well, it gets worse.
Hold on, Sarah. Hold on.
Yeah.
Strongly worded letter.
Exactly. Because
avocados from Mexico.
Yesterday, he goes on CNN again to talk to Caitlin Collins like this. To her credit, says, well, Senator, and I'm paraphrasing her because she was a lot more polite than I'm being right now, your number sucks. So who are you to be telling us that anybody should listen to you? It's going to get better. It's going to get better. You just wait and see. It's going to get better. No.
This is the attitude, right? This is the attitude that will be the death of us. If these people are still in positions of leadership, which is why we're, the whole like kind of citizen movement rising up and the younger generation finally stepping in. We saw what Cory Booker and Hakeem Jeffries did on Sunday with their sit-in on the Capitol. I swear to God, they're listening to me. How many times have I said we need more Brooklyn from Hakeem Jeffries?
Yeah,
how many times? And what you just look at the imagery. He looked like him and Cory Booker looked like they were sitting there filming a rap video or like the cover art for
on
the hip hop song.
On the stoop. On the
steps of the Capitol. It was actually a fantastic imagery, not only of them, but then later on with the sit-in that they had with regular folks coming there and telling their stories. Could we roll back the tape at some point where I said that's what they should have done on the State of the Union night? Did I not say that they should have done exactly that? Exactly that. State of the Union night, go out to the Capitol steps with regular folks to talk about what this administration has done to them already. And because you know what? Just because the Republicans are, quote, in power in the majority, they do not own the power of Congress in Washington, D.C.
No.
It is the people's house. It is our Congress. Those Democrats, you take back that power from them. Stop ceding the position of power to the Republicans just because they have a couple more votes. There's 3 more of them in the House.
Yeah.
That's it. It's not an overwhelming majority. Stop it. So the more that they start to embrace the power that they actually do still have now to push back in ways that get people's attention, that empower the people, that's what's going to move the needle. Not fucking Chuck Schumer and his stupid, strongly worded letters, which brings me to my over it.
Do it.
If I hear Lisa Murkowski or Susan Collins say that they are concerned or troubled one more fucking time, I swear to God, I'm sorry, Julie's dad, I'm going to throw up. These two are killing me. And Michelle has said it before too. Like, I'm like, leave the party already. You want to talk about courage? If you are that concerned and that troubled so many times, then leave the party and do something about it. Do something. I'm tired of I'm so concerned, I'm troubled. They're concerned and troubled about, you think, about the fact that Donald Trump is circumventing the Constitution and due process and disappearing people and threatening senators and do all the other crazy things that they're doing. Well, how nice of you. Do something. Nobody wants, and reporters, stop writing these stories saying that Republican lawmakers are troubled by what's going on. No, they're not. Because if they were troubled, they would fucking do something and stand up to it. Not just sit there with their, in the Senate gallery or in the Senate, dining hall with drinking coffee from their Senate china, talking about how troubled they are. Do something about it then, or shut the fuck up and get out of the way.
Amen.
Those two specifically. So again, let's rewind. Last week, Lisa Murkowski says that she is scared. She is scared. A United States senator, a co-equal member of the government, somebody who belongs to co-equal branch of government, and therefore unified has exactly the same power, or should under this Constitution, as the President of the United States, is scared of the president. If she's scared, how the hell are the rest of us supposed to feel?
Right. And this is when I point people to the whistleblower at the NRLB, who is a regular person on a federal worker salary, who had the courage to step up and speak truth to power about what he was seeing inside his agency and all of the illegalities he was seeing from DOJ and how much danger we are in. And it got to a point where he had to file that complaint letter with the federal government to protect his own life and safety. So I'm sorry, Lisa Murkowski.
They posted a picture of a drone picture of him walking his dog, and posted it on his new house where he'd only been living for a couple of weeks and didn't even change. The only place he changed the address was in the Office of Personnel Management, which is like the federal government's HR. So, and he still did it.
Right. And he's not a Nepo baby. He doesn't have generational wealth or any protections or family members that are in places of power. This is just an ordinary citizen who spoke up and stood up and did the right thing. So Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins can eat my entire ass. I'm sorry.
Again, Lindsey Graham suddenly.
Sorry, Julie's dad. Sorry, Julie's dad. I don't think I've ever said that before. And sorry to my dad who's watching too.
Julie's dad is probably like his head in the toilet bowl right now from this. But listen, here's the word I was getting at. Lisa Murkowski got there because she's a Nepo baby, right? She is. Her dad put her in that spot. It almost cost her a re-election.
Exactly.
So outreach. Susan Collins has actually never had a job outside of government. Her entire life,
it shows,
has never been outside government. So for either of them to suddenly lose their positions over standing up to Trump would be tantamount to like suicide, because neither of them knows what life is like if they're not wearing that little Senate pin and they're not in the elevator and they don't have staff waking up every morning thinking, how do I make my senator's life as good as possible?
Right.
At 3 o'clock in the morning, I used to be a Senate staffer. Terry used to work in the House. You wake up at 2 in the morning thinking, oh my God, I need to do A, B, or C so that my member looks good. There are people dedicated, their entire existence is dedicated to making these women look good. And they cannot envision a life without it.
Yep.
But now, my friends, we've come to a point in our life, and I'll go back to this again. You're either team democracy or team autocracy. Doesn't happen.
And what they could be doing, quite frankly, and this kind of piggybacks on something, it's not my over it, but it piggybacks on something we were talking about the young people, doing things that are different, what Booker and Hakeem Jeffries did on the steps. And I didn't get to talk about this on Saturday because I was on the train going to the Substack party where I had my girls out for a spin for the night. Thank you to all my trolls who commented that my tits looked saggy like knees. I appreciate that very much. They're real, unlike Nancy Mace's. But anyway, I didn't get to talk about being in North Carolina at a town hall that Chris Murphy, who is the catcher on the Senate baseball team because he's the youngest and the only one who can get up from kneeling.
No, stop. Are you serious?
His words. Yes, ma'am.
Out.
I think Katie Britt
my
as
God.
the youngest senator because they've all remember when dinosaurs roamed the earth. Chris Murphy's
Well,
like,
it's not going to be Chuck Grassley.
what's that?
But it's not going to be Chuck Grassley, so it's got to
Hell no.
Right.
No, carbon date that bitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Few the commenters saying we're being ageist, but yes, keep going.
Apologies, but come on, guys.
It's
I
the
know,
truth.
I
The
know,
median
I know.
age is like 75.
Exactly. That's my point. That's my point.
Stop. People are being ageist. I am 52. I can also not play catcher on the Senate baseball team. My knees are also not where they used to be.
Yeah, I just went to get my knees x-rayed yesterday because I'm the arthritis in my knees, and I'm almost 50 from playing sports and everything and running around Capitol Hill in high heels. So I was like, I have to do an MRI and possibly have a knee replacement at some point. So listen, everybody can fuck off talking about being ages.
We're
I'm
making
51
fun of
also.
ourselves the same as everybody else. Just stop.
Yeah, by the way, those were Chris Murphy's words, friends. And
that's actually really funny. I'm sorry. This is a funny thing to know.
Let's be completely honest again. We can all kind of agree that at some point you need to step aside. Like even Dick Durbin is getting this message now, right? Like they understand it's coming through. Okay, whatever. I'm not trying to be ageist again. I was born in 1974, so let's be real. But I just want to talk about just real quickly, like they were in North Carolina. Maxwell Frost, who is young, he's been doing this since he was 15, by the way, and he is as impressive in real life as I expected him to be. Chris Murphy is killing it. They were in North Carolina, a senator from Connecticut and a congressman from Florida to talk to people in, arguably red / purple, but, parts of North Carolina down there are quite red. They were there showing up to talk to regular people. They took off their suit jackets. They're talking to me. I was there from New Jersey. Yes, I think that is exactly what we should be doing, what every member of Congress should be doing. But that is also what Murkowski and Collins can be doing. Going to districts all over this country, not even just in Maine and Alaska, but everywhere, and saying, look, I know you didn't sign up for this. And I also see this. I'm going to be a bulwark against it in any way that I possibly can. They're not doing that. So it's like they're not doing it because they're afraid. Chris Murphy and Maxwell Frost and AOC and Bernie Sanders and Beto O'Rourke, who, by the way, was just on MSNBC, I think it was, talking about what's wrong with the Democratic Party, in part, which is the consultancy class, which has whittled the party away to this beast that is not connected to the people.
Who mostly live around the Beltway and they're not, listen, the consultants, I'm not talking about.
Not consultants like Julie.
Not Julie. I'm talking about the ones who don't know anything outside the DMV.
I literally, as a consultant, I can tell you this. Unless you truly go out there and talk to normal people and leave your little bubble, you will fall into this trap. I have
of thinking that New Jersey primary voters want to see people in a fucking boxing ring.
I like every time those ads come on, my husband and I are like, what are they doing?
And I know the candidate you're talking about. This is the first governor's race in New Jersey of I don't know how many decades that I'm sitting out. And
it shows.
And I will, but I have spoken to most of them on both sides of the aisle, I might add. And I will tell you, I have said this publicly and I've said this to them privately. I think all of them are missing the moment.
Yeah.
All of them. Because they're still having actually, that's not true. With one or two exceptions are missing the moment. But I will also say to people here who think that we're being like ageist or we're being whatever.
Yeah.
Listen, Jerry Connolly was made by Nancy Pelosi and Hakeem Jeffries made the chair or the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee because they did not want AOC. Jerry Connolly had cancer. Jerry Connolly is a nice man, but he was not up to the task. But they needed to block out AOC. That was 4 months ago. Look what happened this week. Jerry Connolly is stepping down because he's sick. Predictably so. I'm very sorry for him. Obviously, it's not good news.
Yeah,
right.
But nevertheless, this is about more than just one member.
Yeah.
And if you are too old to understand how to fight, then you need to get the hell out of there.
Yep.
AOC should have had that job. She didn't get it. She's not on the committee anymore. I don't know if she can come back and run. Put Jasmine Crockett in there. I believe she's on
Yep.
Yeah, she is on that committee. And they're not going to let Jasmine have that role either, which is a mistake. It's a mistake.
And I just want to say really quick, there are people in our party who were born to do this work. AOC is one of them. Maxwell Frost is another. Chris Murphy, better work for God's sakes. These are people who give a shit and they get up every day thinking about how they can fight back and how they can make our lives better. And yet those are the same people who would put their seat in jeopardy if they knew that making a decision to do the right thing might lose an election. These are the same people. And it's always the ones who are put in position of power or have people like Susan Collins who've never done anything else with their life other than just run for office.
Yep.
The ones that can't let go and don't do the right thing ever.
Yes, because they don't know what's at risk here other than their own personal careers. Whereas like the Beto's of the world and AOC's and Jasmine Crockett's and like the people that Maxwell Frost, they have real lives.
Yes.
They come from humble beginnings. Well, maybe not Beto, but like, well, it doesn't matter. He
and those real lives are the reasons that brought them here in the first place.
Yes, that's correct. And I actually just did a podcast. I did with our friend Harry Littman. I did Talking Feds. I'm a regular on that program. We love Harry. Shout out to Talking Feds. I was on with Congressman Ted Lieu and Beto. And it's out right now, and folks can go listen to the episode. And we had a really robust conversation. Congressman Ted Lieu gets it also.
Yeah, he's
like
a good one.
Another one that's been out there. And you know
he's
why?
a real one.
Because he's in the military and he's a minority, and he understands what it's like in the real world and what it's like to fight for real people. And that collective experience is where you see the people who are the real authentic fighters because they know what's at stake, and it's not just about their personal careers.
That's right.
We also haven't been in Washington for the last 50 years. I mean, there's something for getting out of DC.
Yeah.
I lived in DC. Tara used to live in DC. Like the reality about Washington is it's a very contained, it is the swamp, right? It's a very contained little universe. And the problem is that if I'm only talking to people like myself, and we're all sitting there poring over the same numbers and the same talking points, I'm not talking to people who are like in the real world.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember so well, I was a consultant. This is how old I am. In 2004, maybe 2002, there's a woman named Stephanie Herseth who was running for the House in South Dakota. And I had been in DC for a long time. I hadn't actually gone door to door for a candidate since I was a kid. And I said, I'm going out to South Dakota to walk door to door for Stephanie Herseth because I just want to talk to normal people. Get out of this little DC bubble, and I need to go talk to normal people. And I did. I spent a weekend going door to door in Des Moines.
Which is so hard, by the way. It's so hard to do that. It's not easy.
So hard. And I knocked on this one woman's door and I said, hi, I'm Julie. And I came all this way from New York, where I was living at the time. I think it was New Jersey, to just ask you to vote for Stephanie Herseth. This woman was the nicest old lady. And she said to me, sweetheart, thank you for coming here. I am so grateful to you for coming all this way. And I'm so just honored that you would take the time to come here and talk to me. But Stephanie Herseth believes in killing unborn babies. So she's going to hell. And I pray that you're not going to hell with her. But you know what?
Yeah, I know.
You know what? It was great. She was nice. She was polite. She was truly praying for my soul. She wasn't doing it to be a jerk. She really was concerned that I was going to go to hell because Stephanie Herseth was clearly going to hell. And the reality is that I've never forgotten that woman because it made me understand that there are people out there that I just never came into contact with.
It's so true.
Yep. Look,
Well,
I tell this story. I've told it before. I don't know if I've told it here, but that is so true. As someone who I went to college here at GW, so I've been in the DC area since 1993. But I go home to New Jersey all the time. My parents had a house in the Florida Keys. I spent a lot of time down there. I'm very well traveled. I do normal people things. So I haven't, thank God, been sucked into that bubble of the DMV culture, which is
Right.
partially why I have the perspective I have. And I learned very young. I've done the lit drops. I've worked on campaigns where we've had to do that, from everywhere from Florida to Virginia, to Alaska. I actually did that in 2004 to help Lisa Murkowski come back from being 4 points down when she was in running in 2004 in Alaska, and I was out there on the ground helping her campaign 20 years ago. But when I was very young, I think it was a sophomore in college at the time. This was the DC mayoral race was going on. And that's where I cut my teeth in local politics and understanding what we were being taught about the importance of personal relationship when it comes to local politics. All politics is local is absolutely true. And all politics is emotional is also true. And that connection, talking to people in DC about how they could still support Marion Barry after he had already gone to prison for corruption and for drugs and the whole thing with the bitch set me up, and the city was in shambles when he went there, and he was making a political comeback. And there was a Republican woman named Carol Schwartz, I believe, who was running and was great. And she was actually quite popular on the DC City Council, even as a Republican Jewish woman in DC at a time that was Chocolate City. It wasn't the DC it is now. And she had a chance. So we thought, but people didn't want to hear that the city was in shambles. They didn't want to hear that the city was going bankrupt. They didn't want to hear about Marion Barry's troubles. They said Marion Barry came to every single funeral in Ward 8. Marion Barry helped my kid get a summer job. Marion Barry was no different than my uncle, who, when he came out of prison, Marion Barry was at the church fish fry welcoming him home.
Listen.
That personal relationship with Marion Barry superseded anything logical. And those people were going to support Marion Barry because he was one of them. That taught me something very young about the importance of relationship and being there in politics. And I carry that with me 30 plus years later into what we do and how we do it now.
Yeah, and making people feel seen where they are, right? Like that when they don't feel seen. Jess Piper, who I talk about a lot. I love Jess Piper. I gotta get her on the show. Jess Piper is in Missouri, and she'll tell you, like, when she ran in Missouri, she didn't have a chance, but she didn't care. She wanted to knock on doors anyway, because people would say, "You're the first Democrat who has ever knocked on my door."
Yes.
Listen. Thank you for. Julie, exactly what you said. She was like, I know they're eating babies in pizza places, but God bless you for coming out here and knocking on my door and at least having this conversation about the fact that the closest grocery store is basically 4 hours away now, and our kids go to school 4 days a week instead of 5 because of yada yada yada. And that is exactly what these town halls, if you ask me, what they are so good at for it is. And then when I got out of my bubble, because even though I'm in Jersey and I'm in the suburbs and I go to all my son's baseball games and my daughter's softball games and I have real conversations about a pizza being $18, I'm still in a bubble, right? Like, my world is still a bubble. And when I went down there, I was talking to people down there, and it was like, holy shit, it opened my eyes. But they said, I can't believe you guys are all here. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it means something to people.
Yeah, they had a chance to ask questions, and there was at least 25 questions, I think, and they got to tell their stories. And the congressman and the senator and Anderson Clayton and all these other folks got to answer them, and it was amazing. It was the kind of energy that I really needed to see to keep inspiring myself to keep moving. But like, that is what they should all be doing, Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski included. I know Tara's got to go, so Tara,
I gotta go, guys. You guys can carry on, but I have another Substack I have to hop on with our friend Wajahat Ali. So you guys can carry on, but I gotta run.
Say hi. And then speaking of the swamp in DC, I'll get to my over it, and we can wrap up too. But speaking about the swamp in DC, speaking about DC, there is, to me, because you guys know I'm very sentimental about a lot of shit, and I do wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'm very sentimental about the White House because I have had the incredible honor and privilege of being able to walk on those grounds and to stand in the Oval Office, which we've discussed on previous shows about it turning into Saddam Hussein's freaking palace, which is disgusting. But something else that they're doing that that I don't want anybody to sleep on is they're turning the official White House social media media accounts into a propaganda arm to glorify, Donald Trump's dehumanization of immigrants. This is what they're doing. And yesterday, in case you missed it, and it breaks my heart too, because it's a place of great reverence and of great historical importance. Yesterday, we have that picture, and they posted a picture of a plane that says "Wheels Up." And I don't want to cry, but like this plane of people shackled, and it wheels up like so cold and cruel and celebratory, and we don't know jack shit about these people. We can assume they didn't get any due process, right? Because that's par for the course. And then beside that, the day before, I think it was, in the bright early morning, they posted a video of this: "We will hunt you down. You will face justice. You will be deported, and you will never again set foot on American soil. Oh, and your mugshot may just end up on a yard sign at the White House." Folks, that driveway is a beautiful and magical and magnificent and historic. And yes, it is also rife with its own, that space is also rife with its own tarnished history and origin story. But to line that driveway with the faces of people we don't know, those are human beings. We don't know that any of those charges laid out there are true, that they have had due process of their own, that any of this is legitimate. But like, to line that and then celebrate it, think about what the messaging is here, right? It is that these are not people. These are props. These are monsters. These are people. They're discardable, right? And Michelle, when I shared that tweet yesterday in our offline chat, Michelle's very keen eye caught that reminded her of that airplane one in particular. And I think, Em, you have that picture too.
Yeah, I made this just full trans. Like I was like, can you imagine if this is one of the first trains to Auschwitz? And I was like, what if it was that? Because let me tell you right now, the mirror that we are looking in is not this is all being done in our name, in a way that we look back at 1933, 1939, what was happening in Germany and Nazi Germany. Like, we are repeating history. Maybe not in the exact same way, but in a very similar way. To your point, Jojo, you always say history may not repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes. And that's why I was just like, you know what? What if that was a picture of a train to Auschwitz instead?
You know what, you guys, so I think we talked about this before. I'm an Eastern European Jew. So the Holocaust was and I was born over there. So the Holocaust was always very prevalent to me, right? I was born in 1973, which was actually not that long after the war was, and in the large scheme of things. And so I remember people with arms with numbers on their arms here and ever present. I mean, I grew up, if you can't be an Eastern European Jew and not grow up with the Holocaust constantly, almost too much in some ways. Like, there was no childhood where you kind of don't know about it. Like, I can't remember a time when I didn't know about it, and probably too much about it as a child. I remember being in Berlin for the first time in my life in 1993. Which was also not that long after the war was over. In fact, come to think about it, that was more than 30 years ago. Not that far removed from the war being over. And everybody I saw over the age of like 70 on the street, and I couldn't help myself. I would think, what were you doing during the war? All these people now are dead, right? But back then they were definitely not dead, and they had been adults or young adults during the war. And I think about that very much because, first of all, I think that was very unfair of me to have that kind of blanket analysis for anybody who was German and over the age of 60 or 70.
Yeah.
But then I think about, what are people going to say about us?
Yeah.
When this is in the history books. And are they going to look at us in 20, 30, 40 years as we're old ladies and old men?
Hopefully, God willing.
God willing, we're still alive. Walking down the streets of New York or wherever, and some little 20-year-old like I was looking at me and saying, what were you doing back in the 20s when this was all happening? And I want people to think about that, because what Joe said is so true. And Michelle, your Wheels Up, transport to Auschwitz, which again, to stress, this is not the White House. This was Michelle.
Yeah, it's not real.
But that analogy is so apt, because what they said about Jews and the Roma and gay people and everybody else, disabled,
yeah.
everybody that they shoved into the gas chamber they were, either they were genetically inferior or they had committed crimes. The Jews had committed crimes. The Jews were the reason that Germany was in the mess that it was in. They betrayed, they stabbed Germany in the back.
Not to be trusted, right?
They're criminals because they stabbed Germany in the back. No due process by virtue of being Jewish. These people, by virtue of having tattoos, which some idiot somewhere on the internet has decided are MS-13 tattoos, even though some of them have tattoos of their mom's name written on it. Suddenly they get to go and have this kind of treatment where they are sent to what I think is actually worse than a gulag. They are sent to a prison where they are underground for 23 and a half hours a day. And the other half hour, they get to walk in the hallway and either go to Bible study for half an hour or do whatever kind of exercise. Somebody here in the Lorianne Lisanti, you said the autism registry, exactly right.
Yes. For that, yes.
That's like eugenics. I mean, it's all over again. The fact, and that's why even more dangerous why Elon Musk and Doge, whatever, have gone through. They have all of our data. And when we say that, we're not just meaning like, oh, they have your bank account, they can hack into your bank account. No, they have access to everything we've ever done through our social security numbers, which means medical records, everything. They have a way into everything. So that's where they can
to separate us
and divide us and other us and put labels on us that we are inferior members, not of society, but of the world, which then, leads us to the Curtis Yarvin and the tech bro network state things where they want to create a feudalistic society in which, the less productive members of society are exterminated and turned into biofuel. And like this, we're not just making this up. Like they're saying this, and this guy is inside the White House in the ear of the president and the people who are making these laws. And Julie, I just wanted to say really quick with the tattoos, I wanted to just play this clip really quick from the ABC interview last night of his people are either telling him incorrect things or he so adamantly will never admit if something was incorrect, or maybe it's both. I don't know, but let's show this.
He's just addled.
Yeah, that's
gang. And then they looked, and on his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute.
Wait a minute. He had MS-13 on his knuckles tattooed.
He had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry.
He did not have the letter MS-13.
It says MS-13.
That was Photoshopped. So let me
That was Photoshopped. Terry, you can't do that. Hey, they're giving you the big break of a lifetime. You're doing the interview. I picked you because, frankly, I never heard of you, but that's okay. But I picked you, Terry. But you're not being very nice. He had MS-13 tattooed.
We'll agree to disagree. I want to move on to something else.
Terry, do you want me to show you the picture?
I saw the picture.
And you think it was Photoshopped? Well,
here we go.
Don't Photoshop it. Go look at his hand. He had MS-13.
He did have tattoos that can be interpreted that way. I'm not an expert on them. I want to turn to Ukraine, sir. I want to get to Ukraine.
No. He had MS, as clear as you can be, not interpreted. This is why people no longer believe the news, because
when
it's
he was
fake
photographed
news.
in El Salvador, they aren't there. But let's just go on. They aren't there when he's in El Salvador.
They weren't there, but they're there now, right?
No,
but they're
in
now.
your picture.
Terry.
Ukraine, sir.
He's got MS-13 on his knuckles.
All right.
Okay?
We'll take a look at that.
It's you do such a disservice.
We'll take a look at that,
Why
sir.
don't you just say it?
But
like
there's truth and there's untruth, and well, are you gonna believe him or your own lying eyes? This is Orwellian shit, right? He also said that eggs were 83% less expensive at Easter. He just fucking lies, and I think he actually believes that this guy had tattoos, but I actually do fucking think that because it seemed that adamant about it, but he doesn't really care.
It's like Photoshop, but no, I saw it. And I'm like, because your people are afraid to tell you anything that might upset you or might be, incorrect. Like they tell him whatever they want him to go out into the world and say, and nothing else and nothing less. And that is a big problem. And I will say there's a bigger problem here. Unfortunately, sorry, Terry.
Agreed.
I wish that you had, instead of pivoting to Ukraine, this is your opportunity to hold his feet to the fire in the middle of the Oval Office when you are a member of legacy media, not one of these right-wing influencer types that they're letting into the press briefing room. You're an actual legit journalist, and you had an opportunity to ask him, sir, what are you talking about? And then you could have taken a second and been like, you are either lying to me and the American people, or you don't know the difference. And both of them are pretty darn scary.
And that was my first thought when I saw that. That's what I tweeted last night. I'm like, why did they let him roll?
Yeah, they just let him. They just let him.
The phrase "agree to disagree" is, hey, who's my favorite color? Well, JoJo, agree to disagree because red's my favorite color. No. You don't agree to disagree on fact.
Yeah. Right.
This guy had tattoos on his knuckles. None of them said MS-13.
None of them.
That's not an agree to disagree. That is a fact. The sun rises in the east. We're not going to agree to disagree on that one. It's just a fact. 2 + 2 is 4. We're not going to agree to disagree on that either. Here are my knuckles. They have no tattoos on them. You could put all of the stuff that you want on it. They still don't have any tattoos on them.
Yeah.
Look at that guy. He had no MS-13 tattoos on them.
Yeah. You and I could see a 6 and you could see a 9, but they can't see a rhinoceros. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is the difference. Like you can't agree to disagree on something that is, like you said, Julie. I mean, these are facts, and this is again part of the playbook, part of the plan. And I believe that they probably in many ways have to convince that fucking addled idiot that yes, this is what you saw, because this is the guy who sharpied a fucking weather map, and everybody was like, sure, yeah, that's the hurricane path.
And they're afraid to tell him that he's wrong.
Right. And it's all part of, and it fits back into, and then I promise I'll get over it. I'll be over it, but it fits back into what the White House's socials are being used to do.
Yeah.
And it's all part of dehumanizing, but what the White House is doing is taking this so much further too, and what they're often doing, even when they go out and give speeches. By the way, NPR described his rally in Michigan last night as joyful. I swear to God, he didn't catch that this morning.
Which if people don't know this, go and look it up. They were showing the propaganda videos of the prisoners being ushered, shackled and ushered into the prison, and then shaving their heads, and the entire crowd was chanting USA, USA, USA.
NPR described that as joyful.
Right? So were the Nuremberg rallies. Like that's what sounds like to me. This sounds like a book burning, fucking sorry, Dad, Nuremberg rally.
Yep.
Right.
Chanting USA as people who have been convicted of no crimes. I think maybe 8 of the 268 or some small number, 12 have been found to be convicted of serious crimes. The vast, vast, vast majority have not been charged with anything. They haven't even been indicted.
Yep.
And they don't just want you used to this, friends. They don't just want you to accommodate this and be like, oh, it sucks, but okay, well, what's for dinner? They want you to celebrate it. They want to bring people along. So this isn't just maybe parts of the society are like, oh, that's distasteful. I don't like that. And it is actually polling as very unpopular, but this is red meat that they are chumming. Yep. They are chumming the base with, but it's more than the base, because this stuff does start to permeate. It starts to permeate corners of society where you see a 15-year-old kid on freaking TikTok watching videos of people chanting USA, USA, and it all gets muddled in his brain, and he thinks, I'm supposed to be a patriot. These look like bad people. And they start, and I hate saying this, but they start with the easiest targets. They start with people where they can say,
most vulnerable
JoJo loves gang members. Oh, look, you want rapists in this country? Hi, by the way, y'all put a freaking adjudicated rapist in the White House, so let's not go there. But they start with people that they can plausibly say, oh, no, they're bad. And then it's 2-year-olds and 4-year-olds with cancer and mothers who they're saying, you know, these are not criminals. These are hardened criminals that they gave a choice. That's a Sophie's choice that they gave these women, which, by the way, these women weren't even told they had a choice. They were, you know, they couldn't talk to their lawyers. They couldn't talk to their family members. Couldn't talk to anybody. They think they know they're on a plane to another country. But this is all part of this playbook that, you know, we all, Julie, Michelle, everybody watching and listening, we know this by now. And it is 100% intentional. And watching the White House social media accounts being used in this way, it just rips my heart out of my chest. And it is very, unfortunately, effective. And it's just the tip of the iceberg. And the celebrating the suffering of others is the definition of depravity. And when you can allow that to take a hold, you can get away with anything. And I know, Julie, as you said, growing up, you know, in the circumstances you did, that this is something we cannot just sit by and be quiet and let it happen.
But I want people to, I guess before we go, I want people to be left with that, right? 40, 30 years from now, as you are walking down the street and some little college student or some 15-year-old or whoever looks at you and says, what were you doing in 2025? What were you doing? Think about that question. Think about what the answer you would give is. Because if you're sitting there writing sternly worded 8-question letters to Donald Trump, I'm going to say you're not really doing jack shit. Sorry, Dad.
Nope. Nope. And to Governor Pritzker's point, and I do urge everyone to go and watch the whole speech. He talks about, today it's a migrant, a possibly innocent migrant that they snatch off the street and disappear and put into an El Salvadorian prison. Tomorrow or next week, it could be a Facebook post that pisses off Donald Trump. And, habeas corpus is not some fancy word that was just made up to make people feel stupid. This is part of the fabric of civil society that was literally mentioned in the Magna Carta. This is part of democracy in the truest sense, is that we all get a day in court. We are innocent until proven guilty. And it doesn't matter what any of these people have done. They all deserve their day in court. And that is why we should never give up our freedoms to have that out of fear of the other, or out of fear that some boogeyman's going to come get us. Like, we can't ever budge on that. We have to hold the line, for these things that are, the fabric of this country.
Yeah. And by the way, who'll get more due process than anybody on earth? Donald John Trump.
Yeah.
Because
ironically,
due process, he'd be sitting in prison right now for all the things he got indicted for. He ran out the clock. He got due process. He got more due process than any of us would get.
Yeah.
But now that he's gotten it, he wants to take it away from everybody else.
We have ladder pullers. They're all full of. I just wanted to sidebar, which is it's related, but if you don't know Mike Lukovich, the political cartoonist, he is an absolute genius. I love political cartoons, period. But he has a cartoon, maybe it's 2 days ago. It's on my Twitter, and it's people behind bars. It's not funny. These are often, there's always that layer of satire to them, but it's people behind bars. And one caption says, "Oh, I was told I could see a judge while I was in here," and then another guy says, "Oh yeah, there's a judge 3 cells down."
Right.
But this is where we are now, and you have to kind of be like, you that's why I think they're all so effective and so brilliant. But like, it's funny, it's not funny, but it's also like, this is where we are.
This is where we are. And it's, and we don't have time to talk about this today, because I think it's part of a much, much larger conversation. But the 4 of us in our group chat were horrified yesterday to hear the story of the family in Oklahoma whose house was raided by ICE or whatever in the middle of the night. These are American citizens who were born here. And apparently there was a warrant for some arrest of the people who used to live in this house or something. They made the mother and the daughter strip down and stand outside. Like, I mean, they have traumatized and horrified and, violated these people in the truest sense without a warrant.
Minor daughters, by the way.
Yeah. Children made them strip down in front of grown men.
Were we great again? I feel like that.
I feel great.
Yeah. So you guys, all right. It's almost 1:30, so we gotta go. Couple of announcements. We hope all of you, and we're so grateful because all of you, and a lot of you do join us on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern for a coffee and conversation. My favorite part of every week, because it's just awesome. I am going to be on with Olga Lautman tomorrow on our Pax Americana Substack chat. You can find us over there. We talk about foreign policy and specifically Russian malign influence, of which there's to talk about a lot in the last 100 days as well. I think the stakes, you and Tara, Michelle,
every Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We are live from the Seneca Project platforms. We interact, we take your questions, we talk about what's going on in the news. It's a whole lot of fun and sometimes not so fun, but a good place to be nonetheless. And also, we recorded a podcast this morning with Bobby Jones of Veterans for Responsible Leadership and its founder, Dan Barkoff. So we had a great conversation with them. That should be coming out shortly. And also tomorrow is May 1st. There are nationwide protests around the country tomorrow. If you can and you don't have to go to work or take care of your kids, whatever, or bring your kid, whatever you feel safe doing, make your voice heard. It is so important that we continue to show up.
Yeah,
So-
and there are some on the weekends as well, by the way. So there we can put some of the details for where you can find those in our and stuff in the chat, etc. Yeah, I have a post up today celebrating Canada's amazing elbows up. So please check that out on Substack. And I'm deciding whether or not I want to write about my trolls attacking my tits on my Substack or 100 days of smear on the wall, because that's what we're looking at right now. I don't know if you guys saw that, but the Daily Show has a fantastic grading for.
They always kill it. They always kill it over there.
One more thing before we go, because we didn't touch on it, but this is breaking news. Or it's not so breaking, but last hour and a half or so, Palestinian activist and the Columbia University student Mohsen Madawi. You remember he was arrested.
Yeah.
Green card holder. He was arrested as he was getting his American citizenship, literally about the oath of office.
Yeah.
For doing nothing more than apparently saying something about what's going on in Gaza. You don't have to agree or disagree with them to understand how egregious that is. He was literally about to raise his hand and take the oath of office, take the oath of allegiance to this government. Arrested, about to be deported. A judge in Vermont just ordered his release. He walked out, and this is what he said. This one student has more courage than 99% of the leaders in Washington. He said, I'm saying it clear and loud to President Trump and his cabinet. I am not afraid of you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
When you are not afraid, you are true. You are truly free when you are not held by and paralyzed by fear. And
he said when he was in prison, he said when he was being incarcerated, he said, I want people to see me. I want them to see what is happening here. I want them to see what is being done. I want the world to see this. And I didn't see that breaking news, Julie. So I'm very heartened by that. And I pray for his safety.
And I pray for safety, and I pray that he takes the oath of allegiance, if he still wants, to this country and becomes a citizen immediately.
Yeah.
So that he should have had the rights anyway to be treated like the rest of us, because he was a green card holder and just a human being.
Yeah.
But even more rights as a citizen. This one young man has more courage than most people in Democratic and Republican leadership right now, including you, Mr. Murkowski, including you, Susan Collins. He's not afraid of them, and he's not a sitting senator. All right, everybody. On that note,
and people still want to come here. That's the thing. It's like people still want to be a part of this. And, it's what keeps me going.
And I still believe in the promise of this country. I still believe in the American people. I still believe that we can keep moving towards perfecting this union. And by the way, to Michelle's dad, we're going to talk about the Jeff Bezos's.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were going to talk about that. We didn't. Sorry, Mom and Dad. Next time.
That's pretty evergreen. Bezos falling on his face, just like he did when he was running around the bazillion-dollar capsule that is looking cracky face lady. I don't know what her name is.
That'll be a fun convo for Saturday.
Yeah, we'll talk about that on Saturday.
We will start with that on Saturday.
Yeah.
Because it's important. And thank you for raising it. Okay, everybody. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you guys all on Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern. Bye.
Yep, thanks, everybody.
See you then.